Hello,
Hey.
everybody. Welcome back to the Midlife Artist Podcast. You guys know me. This is Dave. I should have warned you, but you're the first guy I've had on the show. You might be the only guy I have on the show, if I'm being completely honest. So,
I
Dave is a singer for a band called Element 80 out of Dallas.
Yep.
And he and I, well, we'll get into that, but, Dave, tell everybody right off the top, say hello, where can they find you?
Yes. Hi, everybody. Yes, if you're not familiar with my stuff, you can find me all social media platforms on Facebook. I just David Galloway, Instagram, TikTok is David Galloway Music. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I do
Okay.
videos all the time with some vocals, guitars, things like that. Just sneak peeks of stuff I'm working on.
And then
It's fun.
what's the band? Is it just
Yeah,
Element 80 official or is it just
it's everything Element 80 related is Element 80 official. Yep.
okay, spell out the 80, but I'll put links. I
Yes.
won't even.
Yes.
So
Spell it
Dave,
out.
yes, Dave and I met in 2001.
Wow.
He would have been
I
20.
turned
You
when I
turned
met you, I was
21 that year, right?
yeah, I turned 21 in June. So I think I met you when I was 20, maybe right
Right.
after I turned.
So, because I think we met in early
Yes.
2001. I was 24, 25.
Yeah.
I was doing merch tables for a band that I knew from Oklahoma.
Yep.
And then met you guys because you guys did a gig together in Tyler, Texas. And then you guys asked me to be your manager. So I switched over. I did that for maybe a year and a half. And
Yep.
then you guys got signed and we kind of parted ways and everybody had a big life. And, you and I reconnected several
Yep.
years ago, worked together for a while. So anyway, that's like the backstory of me and Dave. So
There's a
you were
lot.
in this band, right? Like, so you were a local musician, you were a signed musician, you were, we'll also get into some of your individual stuff, and you've been in this band for as long as we've known each other, and as much as I know about you, I actually do not know how you got started making music.
Um, that is pretty funny because we have known each other a long time, and there's a lot more to your backstory uh,
I
about.
know, but we only have so long.
I know, but I always say there's, we could talk about it later. There's
Yeah.
been pivotal points in my life, and you seem to be there at all of them. It's pretty interesting. So, as far as music, um, I got really interested in music. I've always loved it, but I think when I was hanging out at a buddy's house, spending the night. He's a priest now, which is funny, but he had the Smashing Pumpkins "Siamese Dream" album. So he was like, it was me and a couple of my other buddies, and he said, "Check this out." And he played it, and I'd never heard anything like that, and so I was instantly just hooked. I already loved music, but that's the first time I'd heard something like that, and I instantly wanted to um, do that all the time, right? I wanted
Really?
to,
Okay.
yes,
So were you
yeah,
in like school band prior? Did you already know an
yeah,
instrument?
yeah. You don't know about my French horn playing in the
Oh, yeah.
band? Come on. Uh,
Yeah,
I,
yeah, that's right. You played the
I
French
thought it
horn.
was common knowledge that I was a very highly regarded French horn player in East Texas. I thought that was out there, but if it's
Right,
not, it's
my
fine.
bad, my bad.
If
See,
you
I'm
guys,
also aging.
that's fine. The luster is worn off. So, yeah, so I was in band, and so music was something I always loved. But just when I heard that, it
Yeah.
was crazy. So, I wanted to start. I really wanted to be a drummer, and my mother, she said, "You're gonna have drums in the house. You're not gonna do that." I said, "Okay, well, fine then. Well, I'll play guitar." And she's like, "Okay, that you can do." So, um, picked up an old guitar she had, started playing it, got pretty decent. And my uncle, for my, I believe, 15th birthday, bought me my first electric guitar. It was a Fender Stratocaster, it was a Squire Bullet Series, a real cheap one, but it was super cool to me. And I played all the time, and I used it really to write songs so I could sing because I wanted to be a singer.
Okay.
So it was just kind of hand in hand. And back in the day, the grunge era, whatever, like singers and gets playing guitar and singing was kind of the thing.
Okay. Okay. So when you heard Smashing Pumpkins, you immediately wanted to. That's when you really changed to wanting to sing, and the guitar just kind of helped with that.
Yeah, I always liked being a singer, but that's when I really wanted to I like want to do both, right? Like I want to learn how to play guitar and write songs like this,
Okay.
that have that kind of uh, that pull that kind of feeling out of you. Something about that album just kind of hit me, and maybe it's the age that I was and kind of at those developing years, but something about that album, it just hit me I can't describe the feeling it gave me. And so, yeah, I just was
Okay.
chasing that, wanted to do that. So I immediately just, grew my hair longer and then I started, all the things and got the
Yes.
guitar and writing
The
songs all the
the
time, trying to
wallet
start bands.
chain and
Yeah, all the things, so yeah.
so when did, because I have vague recollections, didn't you try to start bands in high school?
Yeah, I had a couple that were not good. So, you're not, it's where you just start learning things and you think you're good, and then you get a couple guys in the room, you're like, we're terrible. Like, what do we play? I don't know. Nobody's really any good. We have terrible equipment, like you're just not good.
I mean,
Um,
were you playing, like, high school talent shows or just, like, friends like, in your
um,
backyard?
no, played this thing in Longview, Texas called the Alley Fest. Here's the funny thing, because we're runners, right? So as a runner, so I ran like the 10K Alley Fest right race that morning, and then I think
And
I went
then
home and came back later and sang.
and played a gig. Like, this is a terrible idea.
That's just so and so yeah, I had a couple of things like that, a couple little local shows, nothing major, and then um, graduated high school and immediately I moved the day after I graduated. I moved
To Tyler, right?
to Tyler, right? And
To
then
go to school
yeah,
in Tyler,
yes, I start junior college at Tyler Junior College, and
and
so
you were studying music, correct?
I took some music classes. I was just doing general studies, but yeah, I had
Okay.
some music classes in there. And had two guys that I met that were different. They each wanted to start a band, and I felt like I said this. Oh, I got to pick the right one. So I went with this dude, and then I met original bass player for Element 80. Uh, and then through him met Ryan Carroll, who ended up being the drummer.
So you and Matt met. Matt is the guitar player for
And
Element
this is
8.
a believe it or not, it's a different Matt that I met first. Believe it or not, his name's Matt
Okay.
Muller. So
Oh, yes, yes, I'm
yes, and
aware of
he
the
was friends.
mythos of Matt Mahler.
Yes, so started riding with him. He was best friends with a guy that I'd actually used to compete in high school in running against. Uh, he
We're
who
talking
goes
about the
by
previous
Rune.
bass player of
Yes,
Element 80, the first bass player.
but
We're
yes,
we're clarifying that because the bass
yeah,
player they have now is a different guy. That guy
yep,
ended up leaving the band after probably a couple of years.
yeah. So yeah, and then went to go practice one day with Matt Mahler and got to beat Ryan Carroll. Ended up, long story short, that was the band. And then
It was you, Matt Mahler,
yep,
and Ryan Carroll.
and
Was
then
oh,
you know
yeah, and then the
I
bass we can say his name, can't we say we can
think he
say
say his name now, Cameron. It's Rune Cameron. So he was
the reason Dave's doing that is Cameron had a stage name.
his stage name, yeah.
So we're not sure what
I
to refer. We think we can just call him Cameron at this
I
point.
think he's
Cameron,
Cameron
if
now.
you see this, let us
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. He was the bass player, and then he left for a while. We had a guy fill in, and anyway, long story short, I think Matt Mahler was kind of getting done, and we did it for a year or so, and did pretty well. And we were just kind of getting creative differences, I guess. Our at 21 or whatever it was, probably 19 or 20s. Anyway, I was working at a grocery store, and I was walking back in from taking some lady's groceries to her car, or whatever, and this guy grabs me on the way in. And I thought, fight somebody because the testosterone fueled at 20 or whatever. He goes, "Hey, dude." He goes, "You're that guy, you're that singer from that band, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "Yeah, I like you guys, man." He goes, "I'm a guitar player and I'm awesome. And my band needs to open for your band. You won't regret it. My name's Matt Woods."
And ladies and gentlemen, Matt Woods enters the fucking picture.
And that's how he did. He was like,
And that right there, that story Dave told, that's just all you ever need to know about Matt. That is
that's
Matt
him.
in a nutshell.
It was awesome. So I was like, man, instantly I liked the guy, but didn't
Yes.
know him. He had long hair, just
Yes.
had a real like in your face kind of personality, but I liked him a lot. And so said, man, it sounds awesome. So booked a show, had his band open, and then it really was not really too much of a band. It was a couple of buddies. It was really just him just dominating. He was probably the baddest guitar player that I personally had heard at the time. And I remember looking at Cameron, and I was like, we got to find a way to get that guy in the band. So Matt Mullen's a good guitar player. He's a good dude. I think he was kind of wanting to go a different direction. He's kind of stepped out. I asked Matt if he wanted to step in. He said yes. And then we started playing some of the songs. And then I think one night, I think it was actually his suggestions. We should just scrap this thing because his band was called Element 80, right?
Okay.
So that was his deal. He came up with that
Gotcha.
and brought it with him. And he said, we were called, of course, we were so far gone. When we got Matt was the band, we call ourselves Flatline, right? He was like, man,
And that ended up being the
one of the
name.
songs, but
Yes.
that was the first band name was with Matt was Flatline. And so we're sitting there talking one night. I think we were all at his or something. He says, we should just start this over, man. Scrap all these songs. Let's just start from scratch. Don't not my stuff, not your stuff, whatever. And let's just be Element 80. And just a simple suggestion we never thought of. And
Right.
yeah, that was it. So we basically started over. We kept a couple of songs. Matt kept some of his that he thought were winners. I think we kept a couple of ours that we thought were good, and we just scrapped the rest and started fresh. So
And when you
that was it.
say that, when he's talking about that, does that mean you guys would sit down collectively and write songs together? What is the
Yeah,
writing process then?
yeah. So it's different for everybody, and I even do it differently when I'm by myself or doing solo stuff. And I'm sure Matt has his own process, but I think the whole band, everybody wrote, but I want to focus just a little bit. I think Matt and I have something what I would say a little special. I think people that are fans of the band Element 80, I think you'll tend to hear those things about me and Matt because we'll play off each other a little bit.
Yes.
And so yeah, so typically what would happen is Matt is one that he has ideas all the time, right? He would just have ideas and ideas and ideas, and I would have some ideas, or he'd say, "Hey man, check this out," and he'd sing something or he'd hum something. Right.
So, like I was saying, with the writing process, I think everybody wrote, but Matt and I kind of had this collective deal that seemed to really work. And he might have a riff, and I would have like um, say a melody that came up. And typically, what would happen is for some reason, any kind of riff that Matt wrote, and he wrote a ton. Like usually, I would instantly get some melody and at the same time some one phrase, one line that just popped out. And I would write the song around that typically.
Wow.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So and sometimes Matt would have a line, right? And he may just be like, might have a melody or he may have like a line. He'd sing it. He'd go, Dave, check this out. And he'd sing, he would say, he'd sing it. He'd go, take that and run, and like, so like, I think that's kind of um, that's kind of what we would do. And then sometimes, like Ryan did the same thing, Cameron would do the same thing. Cameron was the one that wrote that riff or he wrote the initial part riff. I remember, I believe for Broken Promises, but then it was too much, and Matt, I think, dumbed it down and, like, said, "No, do it like this," and so that's why Element 80 worked because you had guys that were creative and guys that were all writers. Nobody got to do everything just their way, right? Like, everybody's like, "I'll do this piece," and so some songs might be 50% Matt, 50% me. Some of them might be 80-20, where 80% was written by Matt, and some may be Ryan over here. It just sometimes it's just the smallest little things that you put in that, and that's what made it. But I don't know, it's really cool.
Did you guys consciously do that, or did it's kind of the dynamic of the personalities, and that's what worked best? Or did you guys have to
Um,
say, like, "Listen, we have to all contribute, or it's not gonna work"?
no, we never did that because it wasn't really like I know personally, like, there were songs where, like, maybe Matt and Ryan, wrote the bulk of it, right? And I was like, "Okay, cool." Like, maybe I was at work or something, and they're like, "Check this out. We had this," and they got the bulk of it written, and I'm like, "Okay, here's a good check this melody out," or, like, I would create, uh, you know, it that's just kind of how it always worked, typically a lot of the lyrics were mine, except there was especially the early songs. Matt had a lot of the stuff that he brought with him, and he had most of it. Maybe some of it I tweaked or this, that, and the other. And it really wasn't about. I think the reason that Element 80 is, I think it worked in a lot of ways, is because probably one of the best pieces of advice that I got overall, and it can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes, is I say, whenever you do something with a band, don't get surgical with like how you're dividing up the writing credits and things like that, right? Because it's 20, so there's four of us, right? So it's split four ways, or don't do it at all, because you create animosity. You're
Yep.
trying to keep up with these things. You're nitpicking, like, well, I did this much of this song. It's like, look, here's the deal. The reason Element 80 sounded like Element 80 is because we all contributed, and sometimes people contributed more than others on certain songs, but that's why the song sounds the way it is. So
Right.
I think understanding that and being okay with it, and that's what's cool. Matt. I mean, Scars is a great song, and
Yes.
Matt had
Still my
that
favorite.
written. Yeah, I think I changed. I know I changed a couple lyrics. I think Matt said he thinks I changed a verse, and maybe it was a verse. I don't really know. Like, I modified it a little bit, right? But I sang that song the way he wrote it. You know, like I He explained to me what it was about so I could understand it because he wanted it to be, sung with an understanding what it was about. And I think that's kind of, we just kind of built a really strong bond with that way because, it felt like that's where I felt like we kind of turned a corner as a band a little bit too because he kind of entrusted me with that, I guess. Like he wrote it, but
Oh,
he's like,
yeah.
I'm letting you sing this, but these words are important to me.
Right.
So,
Right. From a
um,
personal experience of himself.
yeah, and, Matt and I had a good some of the things we did writing, it seems so simplistic, but a lot of the things that people will say that they notice about LMA with some of the songs are like, Matt would do I love, like, doing octaves. Matt would play whatever Matt would play, I'd sing the same notes, and we would match each other, and so you'd come to these parts where Matt's playing this, Matt, Ryan, and Cameron are playing this heavy riff or whatever over here, and I may be singing something completely different over here, and all of a sudden, it's like, we just
Right.
come together, right? And I'm singing the same notes as Matt, and Cameron and Ryan are really holding it down. So I think that was what people would say if they said we had a signature sound, that would probably be it,
I would
you
agree
know?
with that, and I would also I mean, you've heard me say this, but nobody else has, so I'll just repeat it here, is like, you guys I mean, for you guys I give you guys a ton of credit for a bunch of 20-something guys from East Texas who did
Yeah,
a lot of things right, and a lot of it was not focused on yourselves. You had this collective effort at the band. You pulled your band's money and resources, like, you guys saved up for things together. You realized you needed to go to a professional recording studio and suck that up. Like, build the money and suck it up. Like, we
yeah,
played we you guys would play any just about anywhere I booked you, sometimes 6 or 8 shows a month, and that's on top of all you guys having jobs and girlfriends, and whatever. And so I do give you guys credit for as young as you were having that much sense of, like, bigger picture and of like, "Listen, this can't all be just about me and what I want, like, we all kinda have to do this
yeah.
together."
I think it says
But
a lot. You're right.
okay. No, go ahead.
No, I think it says a lot. I haven't thought about that in a long time since you said that because now that I'm older, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But man, we were young. We were 20, 21, and we treated it like a business. We were very
Yes.
young.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so but I do wanna you touched on your lyric writing process, and I do know that a lot of the lyrics themselves are yours. Is there a different process for you specifically to writing lyrics versus, um, coming up with melodies or the musical interactions you had with the band members?
Well, I mean, melodies are one thing, right? And then usually what I try to do is say, okay, what is the song making me feel, right? It sounds weird, but when you're not the one playing the music, and it's nice being in the band sometimes when you're just a singer because you've got a band I can say, hey, play this on repeat, and they're just in the room and they're just playing the riff over and over and over, and it's just like you just get to hear it, and I just with the first thing that would pop in my head, that's how we would do it. We would play the riff over and over and over and as something would pop in my head, I would start singing it, right? And if I knew if it was good because the guys would tell me, that's it right there, or that's, that thing. And then so typically, like I said, I think I'm a little odd probably compared to some guys. I don't know how everybody else writes, but for me with Element 80, it seems like I started kind of in the middle and worked my way out. So I would typically have what I would consider a main melody. And
Okay.
that's like the root of the song to me. It's usually on the chorus. It's like the focal point. It's going to be probably the main line of the song, and it's probably gonna be the main melody that
Oh,
I
and then you have to
anticipate.
build around it. You have to build the
Yep.
front and the back because you
Yeah.
that's interesting.
So
And
that's how I do it.
you get inspired like, the music has to come first and
Um,
then the lyrics?
yeah, to me, it does. I usually the music makes me feel a certain way, and that's usually what kind of, dictates, what the melody is, and it's weird, and I was working on a solo song yesterday, and I got the music all the way done, right? And instantly melodies were coming in my head, and so what I'm doing is I've got this one melody that just keeps popping up in my head. So I've been writing down, you know, different things that fit that melody,
Mhm.
different lyrical phrases that fit that melody. Which one do I want the song to be about, right? Um, so yeah, I think I write kind of from the inside out. Yeah, if
Okay.
you will. Yeah.
So, and again, without getting into too much detail, so when we met in 2001, they were based out of Tyler. They were trying to get into the Dallas scene. I lived in Dallas, so that was really helpful. So when we pulled resources, they start building and building, and eventually they get on the radio. They start getting a lot more popular. I'm skipping over a lot of
A lo-
sweat and pain.
You're skimming over a lot of the work that you put in. So
The work that we all put in. I still
yeah,
remember,
I
like,
got stories.
I
You
still
worked
remember the
hard.
time you guys played that that place in Greenville, that really low ceiling place in Greenville, and it was in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the day, so it was boiling hot, and then you were gonna go back to Dallas and play a gig that night, and I remember Cameron sitting on the edge of the, like, whoever's vehicle going, "Whose idea was this?" Because obviously you guys had all agreed to it, right? Like, but he was just like, "This is so terrible."
I I didn't make it through very many songs at the second gig because I lost my
Like,
voice.
dehydrated and yes,
Yeah,
which is
and
awful, and that was one of those no, and if that was so defeating because you guys felt so bad, and I think you were playing for, like, me and the bartender.
we did that a few times, you know? Um, what's funny too is, do you remember the place we played down the street? I remember what it was called, but, it was called Lone Star Country Club at the time, and it was down the street.
Yes.
So and the
Yes.
ceiling was so low, Cameron looked
Yes.
at me, he said, "Don't jump, because there's nails that were about this far over my head." And we played basically I think to you,
Yeah.
right? And then there were people outside playing volleyball. The
Yes.
funniest thing about that is I live like a mile from there now. It's right down the street. I pass it all the time. So,
You're just like
you know,
PTSD. Yeah,
yeah,
so they they put in a ton of work, but it pays off, and you guys get signed. And
yes.
so I'm kinda wondering, you were 23 maybe?
We
20
signed the record deal when I was 22. When I was 22, it was in April of 2003, and I turned 23 in June. Yeah.
and so, like, it's really different, right? Like, kinda what changed, if anything? I mean, I imagine a lot
Um.
changed.
Yeah, a lot. So right out of the gate, I think it was. I will tell you that I think the most fun pro- a lot of it was fun, but hmm, as I get older, I think the most fun that I ever had, like when I think about the most fun time, it was probably like honestly, Brandy, probably the 6 months before we got signed. Man, we could not miss any show we played was like huge, right?
Yeah.
People were super cool. They want it. We could go around Deep Ellum and people just Deep Ellum was just such it was such a happening scene at the time, right?
Yes,
So
it
there were
was.
lots of bands, there were lots of venues, like bands were competitive with each other, so there was a lot of like I mean, we were trying to be number 1. We did not wanna be friends with these other bands. We wanted to whip them, that's just the truth.
To be
So,
fair, we
yeah,
have also not touched on, in addition to playing a lot of really discouraging gigs,
yeah.
Dallas music scene at the time was incredibly territorial.
Oh, big time, big time.
Incredibly. So until you guys got somebody in Dallas who could go and sort of start working the clubs and trying to get gigs and stuff, you couldn't
Yes.
break into it. There was just
No.
like, it's Dallas or nothing. And I mean, some real, not aggression, like physical aggression, but we definitely felt, I know I definitely felt a lot of aggression from a lot of unwelcome aggression from bands. Like they were
Yeah.
not interested in us.
No,
And
and
for it to turn around felt, I mean, it certainly felt easier.
it was y and I y yeah, and, I think it took a minute for sure, but, I remember people, some of the comments, they'd say, "Well, you guys didn't pay your dues," and all that. I'm like, "Whoa, hold on, buddy. You guys don't realize that we've been playing for the last year and a half or 2 years in Tyler at bars for 4 and 5-hour shows, where we were trying to." I was glad we did it because we got our chops up. We were By the time we got to Dallas, we still had a lot to grow, but, I don't think there were any Dallas bands that were gonna outwork us, and that's just I know it sounds probably arrogant still, but I'm like,
No, it's you
they were
weren't
not gonna
starting at
outwork
step
us.
1. You were
Yeah,
already, you had a couple steps under you, like, right? Like, you'd started to lay the path a little bit, so
yeah.
you weren't really a freshman.
No, and like I said, I I think that's the biggest thing to answer your question. I think, like, about the 6 months before, like, it was awesome because people were so cool, like, it was a very exciting time to be in Element 80, and in any band that had any kind of notoriety, there was an exciting time, a lot of energy, excuse me, and, so like, getting signed was crazy, and then, it's weird because I was working my job as a cashier in a grocery store, and the other 3 come in, right? And they're grinning real big, and I'm like, "Dude, like, I'm working, my boss is gonna be mad, like, please," I'm like, "Beep, beep, scan of groceries," and I'm like, "Please leave." And they won't leave, they come right up to me. I'm, like, checking someone's groceries out. They're like, "Dude, we did it. We're going to New York." I'm like, "What?" And they said, "Wind Up Records is gonna fly us to New York. We're gonna do a showcase." I'm like, "What?" Like, so it was pretty crazy. So they told me that, and I think I wanna say, like, 'cause I think the flight actually got moved because of bad weather, but, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days later, I'm scanning groceries, then I'm on a plane to New York, right? They pi you're there, so they pick us up with the limo, the guy's got the
Yes.
hat and the sign that says Element 80. I mean,
Yes. Yes.
come on. I'm 22 years old, that's super cool. 4 days ago, I'm scanning groceries in a grocery store, now I'm getting picked up in a limo.
And
It's
for
cool.
anybody who knows New York, at a party at a penthouse that was across from it was like Upper West Side
Yeah,
Manhattan. It's across from that famous hotel. I can't think of the name of it right now. Like this was money, like
it
the
was crazy.
most money.
It was pretty nuts, and I can remember very vividly being at that in that penthouse, and they ordered Chinese food, which is awesome because I love Chinese food, and I remember I went out on the balcony,
Mhm.
and you could see, New York
The
City,
Waldorf
Manhattan.
Astoria, that's the name of it. Like
Oh, okay,
schwank,
yeah,
the
and
schwankiest.
I I can remember I remember the feeling that hit my body. It sounds weird now. I remember the feeling that hit my body when I went out on the balcony because I thought, "I did it. I did it. They're about to offer us a record deal. Like, this is what I've put work in on, and I found these other guys, and they had the same vision, and they put in the same amount of work, and we did it, right?" And so that was the label that we had wanted to sign us, and all these things um, were kind of happening how we kind of hoped, and so it felt like, man, hard work, it really pays off, and
Mhm.
it was it was a good feeling, right? And I remember, oh, of course, now I'm blanking on his name right now, but it was the president wind up and came out and
Yeah, I
he
don't
said,
remember his
I
neither,
can't
but
remember now. Of course, now I'm blanking, but I'll remember a little after we hang up. And he says, well, we're going to get you boys a contract. And I just, it was a weird thing. Um, that
surreal.
just it was surreal. That's right. So it's just as I get older, I'm very fond of those memories because I feel very fortunate that even though I'm not sitting here as some rich famous rock star or whatever, like those memories are things that some people would kill just to have that
To have that
moment, right?
experience.
So I
100%.
think just be grateful and thankful that I got it and I have these amazing memories. And uh, if I'm being honest, just thankful that those other 3 guys put in the same work and the same effort, and we all did that together. So, I'm very fond of that. So, yeah, a lot changed after that, you know? So,
So
y
you're not I'm not calling into some rock penthouse. You get signed. It ends up not being that label. There's a little bit of a
what
label war.
this is a rock penthouse. Look at these guitars.
You're like,
Come on.
"How dare you? How dare you not call this
Shame
a
on you.
rock
The
penthouse?"
disrespect. The disrespect.
Um,
But,
so
yeah.
you end up getting signed, by actually a different label. There was a little bit of a
Yes.
label war.
Yeah.
You start doing some touring, I think, some smaller tours.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't how long were you guys signed? So
Eh,
tell me, and then I'll add some clarification here.
yeah, I think we were with Universal, I think probably a couple years. It was not
So they got
man.
signed in 2003,
Yes.
and record labels started filing for bankruptcy, like, 6 months later.
We were like if you want,
You were
there's a
the last
whole
band to get signed to a
I
record label, like,
it feels
ever.
like we were like yeah, we were like the last ones to show up at the party is what it feels like. I feel like
100%.
it's the weirdest thing. I can't tell you how many times in my life I had people go, "Man, if y'all were signed like 4 or 5 years earlier, y'all be huge." I'm like, "Thank you for telling me that. That's amazing." So I appreciate you reminding me that. We I do think that's true. Just to kind of clarify a couple of things, obviously, there were some wild things that happened on tour. Like, for example, people go, "Hey," we're talking to a crowd. We were on tour with Seven Dust. I'm super excited, right? Our album's gonna be out there, and our album's out or whatever. And people in line, it was no big deal. They go, "Hey, man, yeah, I heard your stuff. Oh, did you get the album?" "No, man, I burned your stuff online and downloaded it
No.
on." So it's like, "Oh, cool."
Oh, no. Like,
Just
you
telling
saw it
so you're
coming
like,
as you're on the road.
as we're and so I'm like, that's a bummer because they didn't have I mean, this is what the whole world music-wise was changing, right? They did not have Billboard charts for downloads, right? This was not a thing yet.
Spotify
So it
didn't
was
exist. iTunes
no,
didn't
none of it.
exist.
No, they did not know how to deal with downloads. They did not have a way to contain it. So everybody in that purgatory timeline, like us, that got signed, they don't know what to do. Because you think about groups like, but think back in the day, like when NSYNC would come out, their album was platinum before it came out, right? So
Yes.
like,
Yep.
sir, now your number one albums were not even going gold. when it came out, right? Because they're like, well, I'm just going to download it or do
And
whatever.
I'm
So they
gonna
had to find
download
a
the
way to
3
do it.
songs that I want. I'm not gonna download the whole album.
Yeah, I'm not going to do this. Yeah, it was a real tricky thing. I can't tell you how many people I met on tour that were like, yeah, man. But and what's tough for that is because we were the man, we were advocates for get our music in your ears however you can do so before we were signed, right? We threw out burned CDs. We told them to steal it, to do, everything that you would do because we were hustling, right? Then we all of a sudden we were like, oh, please don't do that anymore. It's like you can't you have to
You've
pick a
already trained
lane.
your audience.
We picked a lane and so but hey, it's what it is. It's very tough sledding now for new artists, I will tell you, because either that you've got to be on TikTok as much as you are. Like you can't put the grind in that we did back in the day because there's no payout for it.
Oh,
There's
right,
no reward for it,
no.
right? Because people are like, well, I'm not going to go out to see you at this random venue because I can just watch you live or do a live or I
Right.
can just watch you whatever. And you have to, I can't tell you how many like the things that tell you before you release a song, you need to have all these certain number of content. So you do all these clips with the same song. And I'm like, I don't want to do all that. Right. Like that's not, I don't know. Like I enjoy making videos of like when I'm doing clips or whatever. I like to show like what I'm playing. I like to show people like some of the gear that I'm using because I'm a nerd. I'm a gear nerd. I love it. I love that stuff. Right. But yeah, like it's so cheesy. I'm like, I'm
You
not
don't
going to
wanna
compete
do
with
all
these.
the, like, the TikTok dances and the, like,
No, I'm
the
not gonna compete with these nerds in their 20s that are just doing all this stuff. They're like, I'm like, yeah, it's just really cringy. It's unfortunate because um, there's some really good talent out there, right? That you will never hear because they don't want to compete with the BS that you have to do. You have to be a social media influencer to get
yes,
anybody's attention, and
100%.
um, it's lame, man. I'm sorry. Like social media is really cool. It's been nice to be able to keep in touch with people and all that, but at the same time, I'm like, "Ugh," just too much, man. Too much. They
I
put too
mean,
much
and
stock
I
in it.
agree, and we came up in the time where I think there were message boards. I think that's the only thing that existed.
Indeed, there were.
MySpace wasn't even invented yet, so the
Yeah,
only digital advertising we had was message boards, and
yeah.
it I mean, but I also think that's our generation, and there's probably people listening that like, "Okay, like, get off my lawn, old man," kinda
I
vibes,
It's
but
cool, man. I don't I like I said, I like social media. I use it, right? But at the same time, it's like it kind of turns everybody into somewhat of a narcissist, I think. So it's just like one of those things.
you're not
It's
you're
like
not
it's just but it's one of those it's a trade-off, right? Like I love making videos, I love doing that stuff, and I don't have any expectations from it. I think where I'm trying to go is not trying to rant like an old man, get off my lawn. That is funny though. Um is that, when you're the timeline that our band was growing up, essentially, that's what you did, right? Like, so you could really set yourself apart by outworking people, or like really
100%.
honing your craft, right? And so now, it's so easy to record music in your house. It's so easy to correct things digitally. It's crazy. Like, so, I mean, we were in the studio and we got sent home because we thought we were doing something. Our crowd started getting bigger and all that. And we're like, oh, here we go. And I think our ego started to inflate a little bit. And we went to the studio and got sent home. And I think that was the best thing that ever happened to us because Eric Delegard, and he
Grammy
said
award-winning producer.
he did our Mercuric album, right? And we did it in 3 days and whatever. And then we started getting bigger. And he was like, okay, you think you're hot stuff? You could go to the next level? Okay. So we go in, we have a couple more songs. I think one of them was Dummy Block. And I can't remember what the other one was. Maybe it was Goodbye. I can't remember. We go in there to record, I think Dummy Block. And he was like, okay, everybody come in here. And this is what I remember. There's probably pieces that I've left off or forget, but I remember him telling each of us what we sucked at. Right? Dave, you need to do this and this and this. You're not good at this. Ryan, you need to do this. So he said, you need to go do that stuff. Come back in a month, try again. So we're like, he goes, you want to get big, you need to fix these things. You need to be practicing 7 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever it was. And we took that seriously. And so like one of the things
Yeah,
he
you
told us to
did.
do, he said, figure out your tempos, get on a click. Right. So Ryan Carroll gets the Dr. Beat, all right, let's figure out what tempo these songs are at, right? And he started playing with the click. And then that made us very tight, right? And
Yes.
then
Yes.
and then okay, I need to focus on these things vocally. And then, man, okay, so then we went back and he was like, that's better. And then we started getting better. We started practicing every day. And then I think that's what felt so good about that is like we did work really hard. We did put in that
I
work. And then,
agree.
you
100%
know,
agree.
and that's why I
100%.
think that's why I feel bad for people. I guess what I'm getting is I couldn't even give advice to younger people coming up now because I wouldn't know how to help them.
It's
It
not your
just feels
world.
like,
Our world back then
yeah,
doesn't exist anymore.
no, and it's terrifying a little bit because it just feels like there's not really a solid avenue for people. It's just flooded with you know
TikTok
everybody,
dances.
and
Yeah.
there's some great, unbelievable artists out there, and that's what's great about social media too. Like unbelievable people that I can find randomly. I'm like, wow, listen to the voice on this, but like just incredible. Um, so it's a little bit of a give and take, right? But like some people, I think that's where that's where you'll get, right? I can make TikToks and I can
Right.
do
Right.
this, that, but man, the feeling of being in front of a big crowd of people and it being so loud when you finish a song that it hurts your ears is just indescribable.
So you touched on something because what's always interesting to me is as I'm a visual artist, not a sound artist. So for me, I can understand the songwriting process and I can equate it to like how I come up with a painting. But the
Sure.
performance part, I'm not a performance artist. So can you talk like does that also feel creative or is it just like this
Hmm.
is the creative. I had to create this and now this is like I'm performing this and it's a completely different feeling.
I think in some aspects, right? I think you have to kind of know what your role is, right? And I would always tell you, you know me outside of here, and um I'm a pretty calm person. I'm always there like this is the element 80 guy. So anybody who's seen me on stage first thinks I'm probably a maniac in real life, and then I'm just a very
Very
I-
much so.
I'm I'm very
100%.
calm. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
very, I don't want a lot of, I just want it to be kind of calm and peaceful, which sounds crazy, I know. Because then on stage, I feel like it's my job. My role in the band is to be the front man. So
Right.
I think in that sense with Eliminating, I'm playing a part, right? I'm
Okay.
trying to, people pay money, they spend their time to come out and see you, and they make an effort to come out monetarily and with time to come out and see you. So they wanna have a good time, they wanna be
Or
entertained,
show.
right? They
Yeah.
wanna show, and so I think our job was to just come out and just be, I don't flamboyant's not the right word, but we wanted to bring
Energetic, I would say.
energetic, yes, and we wanted to just be, we didn't wanna just play good, we wanted to, like,
Fun. I
perform
would use
well.
the word fun, like, the shows
Yeah,
were a good time. It wasn't
yeah,
it's metal and it's sort of grungy metal, but it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
it wasn't an aggressive crowd like some bands, I think, cultivate, like, it was a really fun crowd.
We It was a really good time, and I think that that was the thing that we tried to play off with everybody, and, yeah, I think that was the thing, is just kind of playing a part, it's where I got to do something different, right? I get to be very, like I said, flamboyant's not the right word, but I could be very, like, much more aggressive than I am in my
Mhm.
daily life. And that's fun, man. Like, that was really fun, those things. And there's a lot of power in holding a microphone. There really is,
Do you
and
feel
it's,
like
it's,
you're
it's
getting
great.
to express a different side of yourself? Like, that's just I mean, yes, you are
Yes.
in general a calm person, but
How many people in their life, when you have those moments where you're just like, man, you just need to get it out of your system, right? I got to do that on a regular basis and kept my sanity like a lot. Like if things are going terrible at home, or if I'm having a rough time or whatever, it's like at least I had that outlet to where, man, at any given point, especially when Eliminated got bigger, I get to go out in front of all these people and just scream my guts out. Like, and like everybody, I think it's like, I'm gonna give you everything that's in my soul, and they would give it back to me, right? And that's really hard to, um, that's a hard thing to describe, and it's a hard thing to replace once you don't have it anymore. It's the
oh,
thing that
wow.
I miss the most, right? Like we
Having
when
that
we
outlet.
yeah. When we do shows, it's great, right? And I have, like a studio here at the house. I get to record all the time. And, I'm like, Tiff, 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 my wife, she's amazing. Tiff, listen, listen to what I did. She's like, that's great. So fun. It's amazing, but like when you get out in front of a big crowd of people and they just, you yell something at them, they yell it back. It's just like, I can't describe that. It gives me chills just thinking about it. So
I mean, I thank you for describing that. You actually did describe it really eloquently. But I want to kind of so the bottom drops out. You guys get dropped before you can
yeah,
really gain some traction. You guys go your separate ways for a while, a long while. How did
yeah.
you find your way back to each other?
Oh, man, it was, was hard. So, after the label let us go, and we really knew it wasn't going to work out. We wanted to be let go, and they wanted to. It was kind of a mutual thing, right? I say mutual. We were glad we just didn't have to owe any money back, things like that. It was. I tell people, not jokingly, I've never been more poor in my life than when I was signed to Universal Records. Like insane, like ridiculous, right? So, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And we'd be on tour, people like, oh, how many cars and how many houses do you have? And I was like, zero. And I've got one car, and pretty soon they'll probably want to repossess it because all of a sudden I can't pay my bill. It's a real thing that people don't talk about. But so we're not with the label anymore. Cameron left the band, and we were fortunate enough that Zach Bates joined it. He was somebody that we had a lot of admiration for.
Amazing bass player. Yes.
Crazy bass player. I mean, so good, and just a good guy. And he was a different kind of feel, right? So we decided to kind of use all of that bad, I guess, and try to shift. So we kind of went back to the beginning, brought Zach in, but things were starting to go kind of crazy. Like I had family, and I think it was just I don't know, it's just a little bit different, right? You've got everybody was kind of on different schedules, and we made it work for a while. We did the Bear album, which I think is really a good album, but I think I had somebody describe it this way to me, and I think this is very accurate. They said, the Element 80 self-titled album sounds like Element 80, and the Bear sounds like Element 80 and Dave, right? Because it sounds like
I get that. Yes.
yeah, it sounds like, that's why I always tell people that's why Element is great, because we did all these different parts. So some of the melodies were Matt, some of them were me, some of them were whoever. We kind of all intertwine. It's like so. Yeah, the music is the guys mainly on that album, and then the vocals and the
Gotcha.
melodies
Yes.
are mostly me. So it's like it has a different feel to it. So there's a lot there. But so that works for a little bit, and we just kind of all get. I think we were all just we
Tired.
felt like we were in the valley, right? We're tired. We worked really hard,
You have a
and
growing family, like a young growing family.
yeah, and you just, I start to think about everybody's different. I think I'm not as much of a risk taker as some people when you see these stories about people that have big, rich, famous artists, and they're on the streets or they're homeless or that. I'm not willing to do that. All right.
No,
And I had kids, and I'm not that guy. I'm not going to do it. So, I think everybody was worn out, and everybody needed a break. So we stopped, and that was it. And I disappeared from music entirely. And I got rid of all my gear, and just completely went silent and was just done with music. I still listened to it some, but I didn't write, I didn't play guitar, I didn't do anything. It's really sad. Now I'm saying it out loud too, but and then there were a few things, I remember. So obviously, reconnected with you, and then I remember, I'm going to tell on you because I got a job. We were working at the same place, and I ended up it was not my favorite time in my life. I will just put that out there,
yeah,
and
it was a tough time in your life.
it was a tough time, right? Everybody goes through them, and
Yeah.
it's fine. So it was a tough time. I was working a new position at this job that I had. I liked the job and a new position. And I met Tiff, and I was working with you, and that's really cool. And you were like, "Why haven't you been writing songs?" And this, that, and the other. And I was like, "Well, I got rid of my guitars and all that stuff." And you're like, "Yeah," he said, "My husband's got guitars, and well, like you got guitar, you need to blah 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 blah." And anyway, I get there one day, and there's a guitar sitting at my desk, and Tiff knew because I think had already seen you come in or whatever. I called you, whatever, and I was like, "I know where this came from," and I don't know if you remember what you told me, but I remember very vividly.
Not exactly the words, no, but
I do, because you said, "Yeah, that's right. Now write me some songs, bitch." That's what you told me. So I did. I started writing some songs, and
what year would that have been?
that was 2013.
And you guys had parted ways in
No, wait, 20. No, man. Our last show was 2010, I believe. I think it's February 2010,
so
if I remember correctly.
it'd been several years.
Yeah, been a few years, and that was cool. So wrote some songs, but didn't do. I was just kind of writing and stuff like that, and whatever. And things started, but it was a nice outlet for me because things were not, going particularly well. But I was like at least playing again, and and then I started dating Tiff.
Dave was carrying a lot. Dave was
It was a
carrying
lot. It was a lot, but it was okay.
it was one of those emotionally personally, financially, like there was
It's
a
tough.
lot in
It was tough, and but I started writing, and then it's like this is fun. So it was like a good outlet. Didn't write all the time, but it was nice to have it, occasionally. And then I was best friends with Tiff, and eventually we started dating. And then she was
she's
very encouraging, like you were, right? She was like, so like now, see this, a lot of this is her fault, right? These guitars, right?
that
So
does not surprise me. She's so
no,
supportive.
my number one guitar that will always mean a ton to me. It's hanging over here on this wall. It's the one that was play on albums and things like that. And she bought that as a birthday present surprise for me. It's before we were married, right? And so it was. She changed my whole life in a good way. And really, between you and her, got me consistently back where I was just enjoying music again, right? And that was cool. I over the years, I've been asked many, many times about, why don't you do the band again, this, that, and the other. And I was like, nah, I always just dismissed it, right? I was like, no. And but as Tiff and I, we got married and things like that. And I was like, man, I really hate that you never got to see that part of me, because that was such a big part of my life, and she didn't get to see any of it. And it was really, there were so many good people and so many good people. We were friends that were fans, and um, just asked me for years. And there was there was a guy that was always at our shows. Him and his sister, and his name was Buford. And he would come out to all of my solo shows and all that stuff. Do you remember Buford? I don't know if you remember or not.
A little bit.
Big dude, little curly hair. He's just real nice guy. Had a big presence. He was always in the middle of the shows. And he every time I did a solo gig, he would come out and he would say, "Hey man, you got to get Eliminated back together, man. I'm dying to see a show. I'm dying to see a show." And, you know, I just said, no, man, I don't think I'm going to do it anymore. But he was super cool. And then, he ended up, I wrote a song for Tiff called Classic. And then he used that at his wedding when he got married. It was
Oh,
like the song I write all these things. He's just a cool dude. And I think it was on my birthday or day after, one of the two. They let me know that he passed away. So, and so I don't know, it's just one of those things where I start thinking about things and go, man, like at a certain point, I'm going to be too old to do Eliminated, right? I feel young, right? But, your voice changes, your priorities change, all these things change. And I just thought, man, what a bummer, like what a bummer. I hadn't talked to the guys in quite some time. I talked to Ryan some because Ryan played with me a lot in the solo stuff. I think Ryan, and I don't want to speak for the guys, but I think Ryan and I were kind of on the same page. We'd flirted with the idea once, and Ryan's kind of like, whatever. We talked about it a couple times. He's like, would you do it? I was like, I think I might. Would you? He goes, I don't know. I called him up and I said, hey, man, what do you think? Should we, you want to do it? And he was like, yeah, man, I'll do it. I think he said something like, "Oh, quit being a little bitch about her." So I don't. It's
that
Ryan. It's
sounds
so
like
Ryan.
Ryan.
It's
Sounds
so
exactly
Ryan.
like
He's
something
like,
Ryan would say.
he said, yeah, I'll do it. And I said, okay. So I was like, that to me was the only guy that I thought was going to be, because he and I were the hurdles, I think, mostly. I called Zach, and I didn't talk to Zach often, not for any particular reason, but he's like, hey, David. I think he knew. He's like, what's going on? I was like, hey, man, what would you think about, starting this up a little bit? And he was like, that sounds amazing, And so Matt had changed his number. I actually didn't have it. So Zach's like, I'll call Matt. And so Zach calls Matt, and Matt said he's in. And Matt says, I won't believe it till I talk to Dave, And so I got his number, and we talked on the phone for quite a while because we'd lost touch. We hadn't talked in years. And so we caught up on the phone for, I think, 3 or 4 hours, how's life, what's going on, how's your family, stuff like that, and just kind of where we were at. And he'd kind of kept up with me a little bit, and I kept up with him a little bit. I knew he's in some bands, and then I was in doing stuff. Yeah. Then we got together and played, and it did not take us long to get right back to,
Okay.
you
So
know,
is
to
the
where we were.
process kind of the same, or
Yeah. Yeah, we're definitely different. I think that, when you get older, I think you start, you have a little bit more recognition of things. Like when I'm younger and somebody said, oh, you have an ego. Well, that's like, hey, shut your mouth. Don't tell me that. No, yeah, I definitely have an ego. We all have egos, right? Like, but we have to like use it, but like harness it, right? It's
yeah,
like, it's kind of thing. It's like, just admit that you have one, because in a sense you need one. I think a little bit to do kind
you
of
wouldn't
what
go out and
you do.
perform if you didn't have an ego.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean,
So you have to have it. You're like, yeah, absolutely. I want to be the best, or absolutely, I want to be a better singer now in my 40s than I was in my 20s. 100%. Of course I do. You know. But Also, I think we were very mindful of we kinda have a laugh, kinda almost like a mantra or a motto or something, and Matt says it a lot, and I think it's very true. It's like, doesn't matter who writes what, right? Or who everybody in the band is a good musician, right? Good writers, all of those things, that's fine. Serve the song, right? What makes sense for the song?
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So, like, that's the thing. Matt is very different in that regard. I think he and I, whether it was on purpose or subconsciously, you always kinda wanna be I mean, you're talking about a guitar player and a singer, you wanna be I don't know, not the best or the most visible, but you wanna be like, "I
You guys
did this,
both
I
wanna
made
you
this."
guys both wanna be upfront. You guys
Yeah,
are
man,
like
like, we're both front man, whether you're front man or not, like, you're running that. So, it's one of those things now where it's like, okay, there are things that I know Matt now in his 20s would have been we would have fought, and now he's like, "No, you know what? This is better, let's do this." We had a deal, there's a song on our 80 album, it's called a song called "Frozen," and Matt wrote it, right? He was very proud of it. He had it and he wrote the lyrics, and he had all the stuff, right? And he said, "Hey, I've got a melody on the chorus here, but I don't gonna sing it to you because I don't want to influence you." I had the demo, and so he said, "Lay some vocals down, see what it is, and let's compare it. Then I'll sing you mine." And I would because Matt's not a singer, love him.
me.
So I sang mine, and then he told me his, and I sang his, right? And so whatever worked is what we were doing. So um, and Matt's was, I sang mine, and he goes, "Oh, that's really killer, dude. Man, that's great. That's great." And he goes, "So here's mine." And he sang his, and I was like, "Shit." I was like, "That's a problem." And so I think Tiff, she's like, "That one's better." My own wife. So it's honest, like that one's better. It was better, right? And so what we did, I thought that there's like four lines, right? We used his one, two, and four, and my line in the middle we felt like was a little bit better, the melody right there. So it was a combination, right? But it wouldn't be that way if we were fighting each other over it's either all mine or all yours, right? It's
Right.
like this is great. This works better, and I think those are the things that are maybe a little different, and that may or may not be why some bands as they get older, maybe their songs like you hear about bands like the Smashing Pumpkins. Billy Corgan was like a dictator in the studio, right? You're gonna do it this way, you're gonna sing it this way, or you're gonna do everything this way, or I'm gonna play your parts. And I think now maybe maybe he's probably backed off that a little bit, and so
Right.
your sound changes and things like that. So I think um, I'm very proud of that album. I think we did things that we wouldn't have done in our 20s because it wouldn't have been cool enough, right? Like, I think that Mercury Man is probably the best song that lyrically that I've ever written, and I'm very, very proud of it. And there's a lot of things like Ryan Carroll wrote uh, Resistance. I think that's super cool. He
Yes.
played he said, I've got a vocal melody. Like I did the lyrics, but he had a vocal melody. He played it like on a keyboard or something and put it in a song for me. He's like, sing like this. Like that's cool, like it's just neat. I've enjoyed that because there's no pressure, there's no expectations of it, right? Like I'm thankful that the guys are still around. Thankful we were able to put out another album, and people that I hadn't seen in a long time are still coming to shows and are still
Bringing their
interested.
kids. It's now
Oh,
multi-generational. They're bringing their kids.
yeah, that's pretty crazy actually. So so that's it. I'm thankful for all of that for sure, and just appreciative. I'm glad that all the guys are doing well. I'm glad they're healthy, and glad they're happy, and you know, it's those are just things that there's so many. It's hard to find other guys that you know are good musicians that will put in that time and effort
Yes.
and will do that. And
Yes.
it's a unique thing that as I get older, it's not lost on me how unique that is, how special that
It
is. So.
absolutely was. It was then, it is now. Has performing changed? I mean, I see what you're saying, but, like, the collaboration and the writing is just matured, but is
Yeah.
performing different?
No, we're still good. In fact, I still stand by this. The best compliment, the best. Been given 2 compliments that I think are like, "Yeah, man." One of them was, "Your voice sounds exactly the same." It definitely does not, but I can still hit the notes, all right? So I think it's a little bit deeper, but, whatever, your voice changes over time, but I haven't had to change the key of songs, so
Right.
that's awesome. The best compliment, the all-time number 1 is they said, "Man, you guys are still moving around like you're in your 20s." I'm like, "Oh, yes," 'cause, next day is a recovery day because we are tired.
For sure, for sure.
But we still try to approach it the same way. Yeah, I'm older than I was. I mean, I was early 20s, I'm 45 now, but I feel young, and, I don't I'm glad I'm still able to do it. I'm just thankful for that. I'm glad people still come out and watch you because, like I said, as you get older, I think you realize that some people would just kill for that, right? They put a lot of
Yes,
work in and a lot of effort, and they're like, man, I'd kill to have 100 people at my show or 200,
100%.
300. It's like, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's a very cool feeling.
Would you tell that 20-year-old anything, like, if you could, or do you think he needed to have the
Um,
experience he had?
Oh man, it's tough because like now, if that were happening now, everything would be recorded. I'd have all this all this footage on my phone or on social media or whatever that we don't have. So a lot of what I have are memories, and I think in a way I've thought in the past that was sad, but in a way it's also kind of cool, right? So it's like I have those memories. I remember them well. They've stuck with me for years, and I think they'll stick with me as long as I'm allowed to be here. Um, and so, um, I yeah,
You
I
know what?
think it's
Something just
something.
occurred to me is like, so it's a, there's some shared memories that are really special because it really was this little group, right? Like
Yeah,
this little group against the world that not everybody in the entire world saw, right? Like they're special
yeah.
because there's only a handful of people that were actually there and saw it and felt it with you. And there's
It's
something like that just occurred to me that there is something kind of special about that.
it's just this neat thing. I remember, and people don't talk about. We slept we slept in a van, and we slept at people's houses, and
On the floor of my 500
yeah.
square foot one-bedroom
And
apartment.
you know what's funny? We loved it. Like
I'd
there's
get
so
them a
many.
frozen pizza and
That's all we
maybe some
needed.
soda or of
Yeah,
some sort.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and you had Taco Bell down the street,
Oh,
so that's where we
yes.
were going. But there's so many things that are just, I remember you booked us a show in Austin and you worked all day and then you got in your car and drove down to Austin. Didn't you have a fender bender on the way down there too? I can't remember. Maybe not. I thought you did one time. I don't know.
I know
Anyway,
that I mean, I do remember what I remember about that is I parked on the so they had this show on 6th Street, and it sounded like a real opportunity, and what they don't tell you is there's the cool end of 6th Street, and then there's another end of 6th Street.
you
So
that
we
we
played
played.
at the other end of 6th Street, but I parked down here and had to walk in my shoes because listen, y'all, the shoes have to be cute, okay, not necessarily comfortable. They, like, cut into my like, I was,
Yeah.
like limping into the club. It was
It's it's wild to think about that, 'cause I know that you don't talk about that, I just took over. So, you would do that. You would book the show, and you were responsible for getting us those shows because no one would I know how hard you had to work to get us on just the most garbage show to give us a chance, right? Just to get that, and we were trying to make sure that we put in the effort to be, like, impress them enough to get brought back, and maybe we'll bring some fans, and maybe we'll get on, we'll meet some other
yes.
bands and we'll get on a show. But yeah, I remember that you booked us in Austin and you would work all day and you get off and you drive straight down to the show and we'd play for you and two people and then we'd drive back and then like you did that a lot, man. And I think it was just,
Well, okay, but
it's
you know
crazy.
that because you guys did it a lot too. And I had like, yes, I had the 9 to 5 corporate job, but you guys also worked. So,
We
like,
did,
yes,
but
like thank you for the acknowledgement, but I wasn't the only one doing that. I guess the only distinction you could make is I wasn't on stage. Like I didn't get to necessarily, but
you were
I wasn't I
I think for a while though, you were like the fifth member of the band because it
kinda.
was like we we lived in Tyler, you lived in Dallas, so we drove up, we crashed at your place. I mean, even when we had just gotten Mercuric, right? And then the 97.1 said, "Hey, we were doing a new local show, and you took our stuff down to the Eagle, and that you I think you were the first. We were the first CD they had because you drove down there,
I did on my lunch
put it
hour.
in their hands.
On
Yes,
my
put it in
lunch
their
hour from
hands,
work.
and that really is truthfully, and I know we haven't discussed specifically, but I've been asked that several times over the years, like, where was the turning point? I was like, that was it,
It was a turning
because
point. And you know what that
100%.
was? 3 days after the crappy double show.
Oh my god, was it really?
Yes. That show, that double show that we talked about at the top of the hour,
Yeah,
before we left to go to the first one, we were on the message board, and one of the DJs had posted on the message board the previous DJ who ran this, it was a local
yep,
music program,
yep.
left the station and took all his CDs with them. So we are looking for new music.
And That's what it was, and it was, they got you put our music in the hands of, Miss Nikki Rain,
Nikki Rain.
Dina De La Rocha, and we
Yes.
and we love her, and,
Mwah.
yeah, we're lucky she didn't lose her job, she played us so much. I think she got threatened a couple times. She was
I think
playing,
so.
like, triple shots of Eliminating and,
Yes.
just
She's a
she was
great
breaking the rules.
supporter, her and Robert Miguel, for sure.
Yes, her and Robert Miguel alone, that was a huge turning point because all of a sudden, people started showing up at the
Yeah.
shows.
It wasn't just me and the bartender anymore.
No, that's what was weird. I remember Matt one time, we had Nathan and Jeff, we call them our first 2 real fans, and they ended up going to a lot of shows with us and helping out and kind of like road
They
crew,
would
and you
help,
remember
like,
Nathan.
if I couldn't be there, they'd run the merch table. They're great
Oh,
guys.
they were
Nate and
awesome.
Jeff, wherever you are, appreciate you guys.
Awesome dudes, man.
Let
They
me
were really
bum a
cool.
cigarette. Like, by the way, like, I'm sorry.
But I think they were at the show earlier, something like that, and I think I think it was Matt was talking to him, whatever, like, "Oh, we're here for you guys," and Matt was like, "Hot damn, we got a couple fans." So, it was that was definitely a turning point though, and I very vividly remember driving my little Isuzu Hombre truck, back to, I was driving back from, I think, probably from your apartment back to East Texas, and, I was listening to the radio, 97.1, and I hear, Nikki's voice, and she's like, "I want to play the song from Element 80." It was the first time I'd ever heard, myself on the radio, and that's something that I feel like you can't, um, maybe doesn't is not as romantic as it was back then,
But
because that was I there were a few moments, like I told you, I can remember how
that's a
I
peak.
felt.
I'm sure that was a peak moment in your
I
life.
I thought I was by myself, and it was late at night, and I was just driving home in my truck. I was on the highway, and I thought, "This is the coolest thing that has ever happened to me." So it was really cool. So, like I said, now that I'm older and reflect on it, I don't have any expectations. I'm just super super thankful because music is, um, very important to me, and I think that, you're fortunate enough to go through some highs and some lows, and, at the end of it, hopefully you end up where you're supposed to be, and I feel like I am. So
Oh, that's
that's
great.
that's good.
That's a great testament. So now we're going to end with my favorite question. After that lovely, lovely tribute, I would like to know, what is a piece of garbage advice that you have gotten that you would like to share with us?
Oh. There's so much. I don't man, it's gonna sound real negative, garbage advice. It's gonna sound this is probably you're gonna be your lamest answer because 'cause I'm sure there are many if I'm the first guy, I'm guaranteed to give the dumbest answer. I don't know if it's garbage advice, but, um, we were always told, like, "Get it in writing. You gotta have a contract. You need to have a contract. You need to have," like, when we did
Yeah,
shows, you have
anything. Yes.
because you
A
you you need to be able to
rider, like, yes, you
all
have
that stuff rash. Like, it did not matter. We had contracts. I had guys on tour. I would hold the signed contract up, and they'd be like, "What are you gonna do? Right? What are you gonna do? You gonna beat me up? 'Cause I'm not gonna give you any money." Right? Like, so the I know it sounds weird, but it's like it didn't matter. It's like I this is not good advice either. So somebody else's future garbage advice is I prided myself on making, I would say, pretty solid relationships with certain people,
Mhm.
right? Like we had places that we established ourselves, and we have places that we play today where I wouldn't really have a contract with them because I I I know what the number we're going to look over the numbers. I know what we've agreed to. I don't really have it. That's garbage advice for the majority of the world out there. But I've had so many contracts where they're just hell. Our record contract was garbage. I mean, it was like, here's what you're going to get. Not really. Like, here's the thing. You're going to get X amount of dollars as an example. I'll just give you a brief example. You sign this contract. Here's the dollar amount, right? And here's kind of how it gets allocated. You're going to get, uh, I'll just pull the curtain back. Each band member gets $25,000 signing bonus. We'll discuss that in a minute. $25,000 for equipment, right? We're smart. We had good equipment, so we got some more, and then we got a trailer. We bought a trailer with so like stuff like that, right? X number of dollars will go to the producer, and then this, that, and the other, right? So you're like, man, you're having the best time because you're going in a nice studio. We were in Hollywood. Oh, it's so cool, right? Yeah, but here's the thing. You say, okay, we have a demo deal worked out with the producer where if we get signed to a record deal, and we do the album with them. They get points on the record, and that's great. We get signed to a record deal and don't use them. We have basically like a kill fee, right?
Mm.
So let's just call it $10,000, right? Hey, your stuff, my stuff's what got you signed, whatever. First, so record label's gonna say,
I can
oh,
cut
we're
it
gonna
out.
we're gonna pay that. We're gonna, the record label says, oh yeah, that's part of the contract. We're just gonna pay that. We know it's there. It's fine. No, no, absolutely not. What they meant to say was, your signing bonus will now be significantly less because you will be paying that fee, right? So all these things, and then there are things like, um, I'm just going to pull the curtain back a little bit. How much would it take you guys to go on tour for 2 months if this is the tour? You work this out with your manager, you get all these numbers, you come up with a number, right? You say, okay, let's just call it 50K. It's going to take $50,000 to get us on here, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay, okay, okay. How much are you guys making each night? It's like, well, we're an opening band, so let's just say they're going to pay us $500 to go. Okay, how many shows are there? Oh, there's 35 shows. Okay. And they just take that and they just subtract that and then they go, here's your new budget, 25K or 30K. We're like, well, what do you do? Well, here's what you do, guys. We're going to give you this. We'll put this amount in here for you to tour on. And then you just, as you get paid each night, add this money to your touring account. We're like, well, how are we supposed to pay electricity bill, or how are we
Right.
supposed to
Right.
how are we supposed to survive? And they're like, well, you want to go on tour or not? I'm like, okay, we're going on tour. We're going to go on tour. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yep. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So it's not that
No.
romantic. So,
No.
my advice would be an independent artist, get real good at social media,
Don't do
right?
any that last hour that we've been talking, none of that exists anymore anyway. So just
Just like
dance,
you
shake your
opened up
butt
a
on
vault.
TikTok.
I mean, it's one of those things you have to be prepared for, right? People don't talk about this. Like, it's not like, hey, you got signed, here's a bunch of money. It's like, oh, your record deal's 500,000. Like, well, kind of. That's
Yeah.
just really what you would owe back before you can see any money, right? So they're gonna front all the money, which is great. You go to the studio, you get all these nice experiences. Don't expect to make any money. If you don't expect to make money, that's fine. Most bands will tell you that's where they make their money is on touring. But when they cut that back because you're not a headlining act yet, you're not adding any value to them, right? So they're not going to invest all of this money so in hopes that you might do something, because they're on the verge of being bankrupt
Right.
themselves.
Right.
That's how it goes. What they used to do is they used to sign a small number of bands and they put a ton of money in publicity behind it to blow them up, right? And if it didn't work, it was probably rarer than it did when it did work
Yes.
because they were so particular. The time that we came along, they were just signing
A lot of
everybody,
people.
right? Yeah,
Because
these
they were
bands are
dying.
okay.
Because digital music was coming on, they were
They're like,
dying. They were trying to get anything
that's
to
it.
hit.
Yeah. Hey, we're gonna sign 20 of you. We'll throw a little bit out there. We'll get everybody can at least record an album. And if one of you just kind of hits for free, we'll
Right.
we'll keep you.
Right.
Right. And that's just kind of how it goes. There were bands that had it way worse than us. We got an album out. We didn't get to shoot the videos. That was lame. But there were bands that didn't even get to record a full album. It's like, so it varies. So I say that we got, we're kind of in the middle. At least we got to put the album out, and we were on the Need for Speed underground video game and all that stuff. And so my
Yes.
daughter thought it was cool in middle school that she could Google her dad, so that was cool. Stupid. So, who, by the way, Madeline Galloway is a much better singer than her dad. She's amazing. So, for all of it's watching, look at Madeline Galloway on Spotify. That's
On
my plug for
Spotify.
her.
Yes, she's got a Spotify channel, and
Oh,
she is a wonderful singer. She gets it from her dad. She
oh,
is
she's beautiful,
chip
and her
off the
voice is
old block.
beautiful. Oh,
Yes.
she's incredible. She's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dave. That was a really
it's a lot.
for all we've talked, and as long as we've known each other, I got to see a little bit different side of you and have a little bit different conversation, and you really helped me kind of see your experience in a different light. So
It's
thank you for
wild.
that.
This is fun, man. This is fun. I just like talking to you anyway.
Of course.
So,
Of course.
I that's what people don't know is
We're
how much
besties. We're good
you've shown
friends.
up in my life.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Well,
is your handsome husband still doing well?
of course he is. He's out fishing. He's actually in New Mexico fishing right about now.
Is he really?
Yes,
Is he
with his
still super
buddies.
handsome?
Of course. Of course.
That's for all your viewers that don't know you have a super handsome
I
husband.
do. And
It's
they will
sickening.
never know because he's allergic to any social media. They'll
Oh,
never ever know.
it's disgusting how attractive that man
Yeah.
is. That's
Well,
funny.
we are going to sign off. Everybody check out Element 80. I'll put in all the links. David Galloway music. I'll put in all the links. David, thank you again, sir. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right. And we are hitting stop.